Your body's going to tell you, man, ease it on back, because, you set this tone for your body, and it's getting used to it. And all of a sudden you want to make this radical change just for 2 days. Most people, it's not going to work. So if you do it for 5 days out of the week, you'll end up extending it probably into the weekend, and then you'll just do it normally. That doesn't mean I typically just eat one meal a day, but the way it's set up, you can have really 2 meals a day. You can have a light lunch and a bigger dinner.
So let's dive into teaching point number 2. So what do you eat and not eat the night before? Because that's just as critical, right?
It is. I think that this ketogenic diet is something that a lot of people are very, are very big on right now, and it's become very popular because what it does is it sort of mimics, it sort of mimics fasting in a sense. So it becomes, it initiates a nutritional ketosis would be the best way to describe it. So the body burns fat for energy due to the lack of glucose in the bloodstream, and the ketogenic diet really is a fancy term for a low carb diet, and it's a diet that's really high in fat, but not bad fat, mind you. Really good fat, and it's very low in carbohydrates. And of course, carbohydrates come in two forms. You've got your sugars, which your fructose, glucose, and lactose, and then you've got your starches, which you've got starchy vegetables, potatoes, corn, grains, rice, breads, cereals, that kind of things. So what we want to do with the night before fast, let's say we're going to do a 16-8, and you want to have a keto type meal, because what that does is that can kind of ease your body into this whole fasting this whole fasting process. So going back to glucose, that's your body's primary fuel and primary fuel source. And the glucose is converted from carbs. And the keto diet, you want to limit your carbs to maybe 25 grams a day. So primarily you want to eat high fat foods and moderate amount of protein. So the big distinction between the keto diet and the Atkins diet, which was so wildly popular back in the early 2000s, is that the keto diet recommends low carbs and obviously really wanting to bump up your good fats, but there's a moderation when it comes to protein, particularly meat-based protein. So the Atkins diet stressed, lots of hamburger steak, sausage, a lot of high-fat protein, because basically they were saying, you can even eat all this bad red meat. It's okay because you're eliminating these carbs, and so it's going to balance itself out. But it was ineffective in the sense that if you were not really prepared for it metabolically, which a lot of people who tried the diet were not prepared for it metabolically, it can exacerbate health problems, particularly spike your triglycerides and create LDL, bad cholesterol problems if you're going to inundate yourself with a bunch of red meat. But the keto diet or keto meal is very moderate. That doesn't mean you can't eat meat. You can eat meat, and you want to stress organic, if all possible, grass-fed, beef, that kind of stuff, lean meat, lean pork, fish preferably, if you can, some wild, caught cod or steelhead trout or, salmon, some really good quality fish, leafy green vegetables, the allowable food groups that are in the keto plan is that you've got fats and oils, which you can derive fats and oils from meat and nuts, and then you can also derive fats and oils from either saturated or mono unsaturated fats like coconut oil, real butter, and olive oil. So those are really, really good fats. Those are some of the things that we want to try to eat. Now back to protein. You want to try to choose, like I said before, organic, pasture-raised, grass-fed meat if possible. But remember, you really don't want to go overboard on the red meat and go whole hog, quote unquote, on the meat protein. Vegetables are a big plus and a big check mark. Fresh or frozen, like we talked about before, there's a big myth that, you got to have all these fresh vegetables, and fresh vegetables are good, and organic, non-processed, pesticide-free vegetables are farm raised. If you can get them and you can get them reasonable or, not, spend a fortune on buying them regularly, that's great. But frozen vegetables actually are good too, as long as, like we talked about before, they're sorry about that. They're as long as they're whole food and non-processed. They're not chemically processed, refined foods. So back to like bird's eye, frozen peas or carrots. If you look at the label and you look at the ingredients and you say, okay, it's carrots and it's water and maybe a little bit of salt, and there's not a lot of additives and preservatives, then yeah, you can have some frozen vegetables, and that'll be great for a keto meal the night before a fast. Now dairy is also good, but you just have to be a little conscious about, like anything else. You need to exercise moderation, because you don't want to eat too much yogurt or drink too much whole milk or put gobs of butter on a muffin. That little muffin is going to be just your only little bit of carb, and then you slam this big pat of butter on it. But harder cheeses, from my understanding, tend to have less carbs. So there are carbohydrates in cheese, but the harder ones have less amount of carbs. So really, one meal, you want to limit your carbs in a keto meal to only 5%. So you're really, you want to stress nuts and seeds, and almonds are a great nut to eat because they're pretty healthy, but also they're very alkaline in nature, and they really neutralize your pH. So they're a healthy nut, and they tend to balance out a lot of the acidity in your body. So with the keto plan, they stress macadamia nuts and almonds, and really, when it comes to beverages, particularly the night before fast, ideally it'd be a good idea just to try to drink water, with a little bit of lemon. So that you don't have to have a keto meal before a fast. It just makes that transitioning into fasting a lot easier, and it actually makes that transition and into ketosis a whole lot more effective.
Yeah, so it also mean that you won't be as hungry when you're during fast, because you have all the nutrient that you need. Versus
Absolutely.
if you ate junk food, if you ate donuts for dinner, I don't know who would do that, but some people do. Mm-hmm. And you'll feel even more hungry.
Absolutely. If you inundate yourself with those carbs, and we talked about carbs